international cannabis brands. How exciting is that? And to lead us into the discussion, the founder and CEO of the Grasslands PR and marketing firm. Let's hear it for Ricardo Baca.
Thank you. Ngayo, thank you very much, bro. Good to see you. Good to see all of you. Happy ICBC Berlin, right? All right, I got a hell of a panel here. As you see, these powerhouses walk up here. Thank you, gentlemen. Now for something totally different, because Bo just gave us an education and a schooling on the German market. Thank you, Bo, so valuable. And now we're here to chat about establishing international cannabis brands, whether that's starting here and moving into the US, into South America, or it's starting in California and moving here. That is really what we're here to chat about. So, as Ngayo said, my name is Ricardo Baca. I run a PR and marketing agency that's been working deep in cannabis for almost a decade. We're called Grasslands. We throw the Grasslands party at MJ BizCon. Hope to be able to host you sometime. We proudly represent some really fantastic brands, including Cookies, Alien Labs, Wild. From this side of the pond, we work with great organizations like Zamnesia, Royal Queen Seeds, Grodan, and others. Now, this conversation is an essential one, though. Really, when you grow, you launch that brand, that business, you exist, and then suddenly you're like, okay, well, the total addressable market is addressed. Where else are we going? Where are we going next? And that really is the expansion conversation. Very honored to be joined by a panel of powerhouses, and I'm going to pass it on to them to make some self-introductions. So, Barry, why don't we get started with you? I think you have some microphones in front of you, gentlemen. So,
hi there. My name is Barry Laxer. I work for a company called Cielo Verde in Montreal, Quebec. We are a privately owned cannabis cultivation company. We run 2 indoor facilities producing craft quality, high-end cannabis, mostly flower, for the Canadian market. We've been incorporated since 2021. We were licensed in 2021, and we sell in Quebec and in Ontario and Alberta, Canada. And we've recently, in the past year, expanded our market and focus to other countries, here, Germany and the UK and in Israel. And we are experiencing a lot of the nice things about international business, the growth, the potential, the different markets. And it's our first time here at ICBC, our first time at anything in Europe, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
welcome, Barry. All right, Lance, please.
Yeah, name's Lance Lambert, Chief Marketing Officer and International Business Development for a company called Grove Bags. Terplock Technology is what we're known for. My background, actually going back to working with this guy, although I grew up in Northern California, but cut my teeth in the legal industry in Colorado. My forte has been scaling up companies internationally, so Weed Maps, Bovida, Green Bros, now Grove Bags. Really enjoy being here. Have been in the international space for a while. Definitely encourage others getting into the international space. Love the opportunity, and obviously there's some healthy challenges around it as well, but very happy to be here in beautiful Berlin.
I know, and funny story, back in 2013, at the dawn of adult use weed, I was a Denver Post journalist. We're writing for the daily newspaper there. They asked me to start up a standalone news vertical that would bring capital J journalism to the cannabis industry, and I did. It was called The Cannabis. We ended up passing up Weed Maps, High Times in terms of traffic, doing real journalism that held everybody accountable around us, and yeah, Lance was our first GM at the Cannabis. So we go way back to both of our first jobs in cannabis. So, but Jürgen, please.
Yeah, and it's like dog years for those that are just getting into it in Germany, and I recognize a lot of familiar faces here. It is crazy because the only fast pace I've seen like this is coming from .com, like, and both of us coming from media. So it's definitely, it's a fun space to be in, but time flies by, it's for sure.
Yeah, so hello, yeah, my name is Jürgen Bickel from Storson Bickel. I'm a co-founder and managing director of the company. Yeah, we are in the business since 25 years. Yeah, I mean most will know the volcano vaporizer, our main product, and the product who has this year the 25th anniversary. Yeah, so we have some experience. We have also some international experience. Yeah, so in an average year we are shipping to more than 100 countries around the world. You know, I think the interesting fact there is that you can see that cannabis is consumed everywhere on the planet. You know, there isn't a place where not, also traditionally not. It's also mostly independent from the legal situation. So this is very interesting from an international standpoint. And of course, yes, we are here to serve the consumer in a consumption form who is very healthy and very tasty.
Talk about an international brand, right? Before the panel, I gotta thank Jürgen for his contributions and his advocacy, and also giving us a healthier way to consume flower. But please, Nick, why don't you finish us up?
Okay, I'll finish this up. Just the introduction, that is. My name is Nick Ave. I'm the general manager at Somnesia. We've been doing business ever since 2012. So for over a decade, we've been in business. Our focus is, well, we're called an online smart shop, in which we also sell a lot of cannabis seeds. It's one of our main markets. And what we've grown to be is the biggest online smart shop of Europe and basically of the world, because it's a European thing. Doing over 30 million in sales every year, and ever since last year we're also doing business and fulfilling orders from the States. So across continents these days, internationally doing sending to over 25 countries at the moment, and still growing. So yeah, nice to be here. Thank you.
Outstanding. 4 gentlemen and 4 countries represented up here. So when we are talking about growing international brands, obviously we have a vast industry perspective and expertise here that we're ready to get into. But guys, why don't we get started with a question for all of you. What's the single biggest misconception businesses have when considering international expansion? Maybe it's something they fear that they think is inevitable, or maybe they think it's something on the flip side. But who wants to get us started?
Well, I'll have a start. What we've noticed when expanding to other countries is that it's wrong to think that every country is the same type of business. So when it comes to marketing, well, obviously legal side of things is different in most countries. But thinking that your a business model will work in another market just as it is, well, you'll learn along the way, but that's probably the biggest misconception.
Yeah, I think I can agree is that maybe the success in your home market is not necessarily a success abroad in other markets. Every market, legal, obviously, but also on the cultural side. You have much differences in Europe. Many people are using cannabis together with tobacco, for example. You know, what in the States is completely unknown. Also, the distribution side is different. You know, it depends if you have big wholesalers, small change, and so all this needs to be considered and needs to be evaluated very carefully to not make costly mistakes when expanding.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. We're in 67 countries, and you'd think someone in the ancillary space that has a technology and packaging would have it easy compared to like a genetics company, because Nick's doing God's work by being able to get into that many countries already, because it's a challenge. But I'd have to agree with these guys. It really is tough because no 2 countries are the same, just like no 2 provinces or no 2 states are the same for those of us in North America. It really is a challenge to come in and recognize, and to also to the point of getting acclimated to that culture and craft. Because there's some places where this plant hasn't been weaponized like it has in the States or in a lot of Commonwealths. I mean, I'd pick on Australia, which is almost as bad as the US on how they've really put this plant in a corner and chastised it. Where you go to other countries where they're quite open-minded, and especially when they segue into rather be medical with Germany years ago, or adult use with Thailand, where when the law has changed, it's changed. So you see some interesting things that, you think you see everything in your home country, but I'll give a quick example because the organizers actually here there's a phenomenal event many have probably gone to called Cannabis out in Prague in Czechia. And the thing that really threw me off guard was walking in and there was a pop-up daycare at that expo. If I was back in the States, the Child Protective Services, CPS, would be called in the first 5 minutes. That's something you just don't see as underage children, even at something that's a professional expo for this category. So you have to be ready to understand and really comprehend the things that you don't know. Because when you're expanding into other markets, you know what you know, but really be mindful of what you don't know and tap into someone who is aware of that at a local level. And in a good example, we've got, to your point, several countries here, and all these individuals are experts in their own respectful country, and they're learning the language abroad and how to do business.
You need some local knowledge, boots on the ground,
Exactly.
for sure. Barry?
Yeah, to Lance's point, I think, again, being a newcomer into the export world, as a new company looking to export, I think the biggest fear is really just the fear of the unknown. Cannabis is the same product regardless of where it's produced and regardless of where it's consumed. The one thing that we have found since we've been working in other markets is from a producer side and some of the people that we're fortunate enough to work with in the other countries as distributors, the same way we find on the consumer level is how similar it is. As producers, we're familiar with our customers in Canada. There's all the platforms where we hear the feedback of what they like, what they don't like. And as we're starting to export and dealing with local distributors, their single largest focus also is their consumer base and what the consumers in their country are looking for, what they like and what they don't like, and it's remarkably similar. So until you start doing it, the other markets seem distant and far away, and they're differently regulated. I find that the consumers are still the same consumers. They still want the same quality of their product. They still want the same attributes. They still want what they like, and what they like seems to be very familiar to us. So on that level, what we do for the market that we do it in, we're finding if we do it well where we do it, it seems to be well accepted and well appreciated where we're trying to introduce it to.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Jürgen, going to you for this next one. You famously started your business in the basement. And I'm curious, when did you first expand beyond your home market of Germany? And then what were those initial challenges you encountered?
Yeah, of course, we started our business in the year 2000 when the Volcano came to the market. And of course, in 2000, you have to recall the euro, there was fixed exchange rate, but the euro was not available. There was no online shop available. And our whole product category, vaporization, was also not known. So we were there pretty alone with our balloon and saying, hey, this is how you can do it on a healthy way and on a tasty way, and started really to convince people. So it was really going really door by door and going really to events where really we could show our product. Yeah, so this was very important to establish the whole category at the product and try to find distributors. So it picked up a little bit in 2002. We started to build 110 volt models for the US, and then we started to expand into the US. I mean, the good thing about vaporization and about decarboxylation of cannabis, this is everywhere the same. This is something you can rely on. Yeah, and the consumer reaction in our case was also mostly really overwhelmingly positive. But people needed to try it out. So this was the challenge was really to get people a balloon in the hand and they really can try it out and get the experience by themselves to get convinced. I would say the main competitor at that time, this was the joint. It was not another vaporizer, it was the joint, you know. Surprisingly, it's coming back a little bit. That the main competitor is again the joint. It's a pre-roll joint today, yeah. I never would have thought that this will come back, but it's really the case. You know, people are now smoking joints like cigarettes before, yeah. But yeah, this was the challenges we had to really convince people about the technology itself. And then, of course, you have, until today, you have tons of marketing restrictions. You know, you cannot talk about what you are doing. Many platforms are not allowed. Banking is still a big issue in the US. So everywhere you have really a unique situation, and you are not comparable to any other industry. You know, this is also unique. If you say, well, I cannot do Google AdWords, I cannot do Instagram, Facebook, I cannot use PayPal, I cannot use this, that, all these restrictions, if somebody comes to you from a normal business, he say, okay, but how you're doing your business? So, of course, what we are doing then is, okay, first thing, focusing on the product quality. You know, you must convince every customer you find that this product is great, and then you have the most-to-most propaganda. You know, everybody who buys a Volcano until today invites all his friends and says, hey, look what I have bought. Let's try it out together. So these are tactics you need to use, and we have used and are using it until today. And yeah, and then, of course, consistency is also very important. You must be there all the time. You must be on the different shows. You must be visible where you can. Maybe you're on a lifestyle visibility more than on a really technology or really, let's say, cannabis visibility. But yeah, and with this, yeah, we managed it, you know, to come from a two-man company to today of 170 people who are working in Tuttlingen in our facility. And yeah, we are trying to convince people with great products.
You know, so much with cannabis, to Jürgen's point, is really try it before you buy it. You know, especially imagine selling a vaporizer 25 years ago, not only because the construct itself is so new, but also it was so illegal at the time. But I know as we were prepping for this panel, Lance, you raised an interesting point about supply and demand. Ultimately, when building an international brand, is it better to start with establishing supply capabilities or creating the demand first? You know, it's chicken and an egg, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this now, especially since you have been doing the global cannabis tour for what, 6-7 years now, pretty hard.
Yeah, even longer. Yeah, since 2016. And it really has been interesting. You know, it's a bit subjective in many instances. You know, if you have a tangible, for Weed Maps as an example, you know, heading up international media for them, you know, we really did lead with education and understanding of what Weed Maps was before bringing the actual tech or the you know, SaaS, as it were. And it's funny because I have old friends like Misha up here who used to work with me at that company. But it was a challenge. You know, we had to have locals, you know, like Misha and like others to really help them understand what we were offering. When it comes to a tangible product, and I will, you know, Stories and Bickle, which is a good example, and I really like the strategy that they did, and you know, it is smart to keep an eye on those leaders in the space. There's always going to be alphas, but one thing that I really like that they did was they went after the community and the corporate. You know, I'm definitely, you all can tell by how I'm dressed, I'm more of a roots over suits or community before corporate. And it's not just because I don't like, you know, wearing a blazer. It's just because I really do like where I came from of Northern California and really looking at the community first, because a lot of people don't understand that. And again, I really don't care what market it is. I've been to Thailand, Brazil, Israel, Australia, Canada, everywhere around the world for this plant. It really is the community that's driving it. So what Stories and Bickle did was they went after the community, but they were also mindful of the corporate, and by having a compliant device that was actually approved by the German government. You know, that was something that was next level for them to do at that time. So it really is subjective to what you're offering. For us, you know, specifically for Grove Bags, again, we are doing a bit of creating the demand before the supply, because it takes a lot of time to deal with logistics and 3PLs and what can be brought in and what can't. And then there's compliance. You know, again, I kind of tease Nick about the genetics, but we have to be in consideration of EU GMP and being food grade safe. And, you know, there's other elements even for the packaging that your flower is going into, because at the end of the day, in a majority of the markets in the world, you know, it's medical first, and then it's adult use second. We saw that in Germany. We've seen it in Thailand. We've seen it in other places. Canada was medical for years before they were adult use. So also being mindful of that, but making sure that people are familiar with what you're offering. instead of just assuming that you're going to drop it on the dock and they're going to accept it. It's very important.
Interesting brief share. I was having coffee this morning with a Canadian friend who exports, and I was asking him about his process, how he dries, cures, stores to make sure it's still good when his flower shows up in Australia. And he's a customer of yours, as it turns out.
And I love how you worked our tagline into it. That's dry cure, it's that dry cure, store, and save the goodness. But you're right. I mean, that's when they understand, and I have to go back really quick because you're talking about the joint being your biggest competitor. People ask, and I've worked for those companies and built them, like, oh, isn't a humidity pack company your biggest competitor? Is this machine your biggest competitor? No, the glass jar. As trivial as it seems like, the glass jar is our biggest competitor because you have old heads, and Americans are more at fault for this than they're not. I love Europeans because you guys don't act like you know everything. Americans do. We're extreme capitalists and we think we have all the answers. You come to Europe and they're like, Lance, would you do an audit of my operation and tell me what I could do better? Tell me what I can do to improve, because I know you've seen hundreds of operations around the years in all of your travels. So it is something that's definitely important to factor in as well.
And a hot tip for all of y'all, on the second convention floor, check out my partners at Cannatrol, speaking of dry cure store. Another really great opportunity there. But Barry, I love that you're on this panel about building international brands, in part because we connected earlier and Barry's like, yeah, I guess I have an international brand. But I'll let him share more about that. But Barry, you've led Cielo Verde from all Canadian sales to international medical markets. So what positioning strategies helped you become a trusted export partner for countries with strict regulations? And maybe it was positioning strategies, and maybe it was just smart relationships. Would love to hear it.
Well, our experience so far is that the regulations aren't all that different from country to country. Any country that has medically legal cannabis have very strict protocol on levels of, I guess, manufacturing, packaging. We haven't found that much of a hurdle going from Canada to Europe, other than the EU GMP, which is a packaging protocol, a drying and packaging protocol. But they're completely different businesses. Our experience in branding is really primarily in Canada, where we have, it's a huge challenge, and it's sort of what's the word, oxymoron, branding cannabis in an industry where branding and advertising really isn't allowed anywhere. So
especially in Canada.
Yeah, so that's really been the big challenge. And my personal issue with it is that we really want to be the best cannabis producers that we can be in terms of quality and how we grow it and how we deliver it. So most of our focus, I always feel, needs to go into producing our product. And in Canada, that's been a big challenge, because there are a lot of companies that put a lot of focus into marketing and packaging and branding. And I think sometimes, personally, sometimes they lose their focus, because in the end, the customer wants what the customer wants. And a lot of the companies that have been successful in branding in Canada have been the ones that came first to market, kind of like the Coca-Cola thing. The big brands that were there when things legalized in 2018, a lot of them continue to be successful large brands. But as we all know, they haven't always been that successful. For us in the international market, we have really found our success in the quality of the product that we deliver, because we're not the distributors in Germany or the UK. That's the job of our partners. And we try and find the partners that we seem to think do the best jobs. And we don't really look for them. We've been fortunate that the partners that we've developed have found us. And my experience is really, when it comes to international branding, it's almost like an oxymoron, because my Canadian brand doesn't really carry that much weight here in Germany or in the UK. That's the job of the people that we're partnering with, and that's where we have to be diligent in who we decide to work with, because they're our ambassadors. But they're two completely different things, and as I was saying when we were talking, I'm not the best guy to put up on the podium and talk about, you know, the value of branding, because I think that our customer base, who is very vocal, lets us know all the time what they think about the product, regardless of how flashy our packaging is, or some of the other messages that we're trying to get across.
Well, you say you might not be the best guy, but I think it's essential. I think it's such an important perspective to have represented here, because I think the other three panelists are honestly living and dying by the brand, which is traditional marketing, right? I mean, I was a journalist for 24 years before starting Grasslands. You really do live and die by, I mean, I'm wearing my brand on my shirt right now, you know, so something that I get, but I love that it's totally different for your scenario, Barry.
Well, in Canada, though, there is value to brand, but it's developed on a much more organic level. We do have a very successful brand in Canada, but it's taken us years of consistent production, consistency, R&D, and really to develop the level of trust with our consumers that they recognize the brand with the quality. And it wasn't anything that I don't think that we could have done with ad campaigns or marketing agencies, although there's certainly a lot of value to it. But it's in cannabis flower, and that's really all I can speak to. It's consistent, high-end production, delivering orders that really differentiate between the companies that continue to succeed and the ones that come and go.
Right, and if you don't have a quality product, you probably shouldn't be investing in marketing. But hey, we've seen a fascinating contrast between different approaches to market entry. Let's shift to discussing how brands actually connect with consumers, especially across different cultures. Nick, I want you to get us started with this. You and your colleagues have built Zamnesia into Europe's leading smart shop brand. And for those who aren't familiar, smart shops are a uniquely European construct of head shop plus seeds plus other intoxicating materials that make you smart, you know? I'll let Nick share some more, but Nick, now you've launched Zamnesia in the US a little bit more than a year ago, so can you tell us about one of your more successful tactics to find traction among different cultural contexts? Maybe share a lesson about moving this distinctly European brand to the US and how that's been.
Yeah, well, to be honest, it's been a bit of a struggle, especially in the beginning. Now we kind of know what to do. Like I said before, it's different in every country trying to start and build your brand, especially when you're not that well known. Obviously, we're quite well known within our business in Europe, but we had to start all over again in the US. A lot of people from the business, like B2B business, knew our company, but consumers were totally unaware of us because, yeah, we didn't offer any products in the US. But the challenge was, and what the other hand, the thing was in the US is that it starts all with creating brand ambassadors. And I think that's the most important thing, what we've seen and what we're now getting a return on in the US as well, is that it all starts with the whole customer experience, the products which you offer. Obviously, if you offer AliExpress or whatever cheap products, obviously it can be something for your brand, but that's not how we at Zamnesia work. We want high quality products. We want to offer the best, but that comes with the best customer service, the best products, basically everything. And the main focus for us is to try to make our customers into ambassadors, and that's what you do along the way. And we do that on all types of levels. What we try to do, for example, is we created a loyalty system, try to keep the customers buying at Zamnesia. And it's a hard thing. You see different markets having different demands, different types of customers even. But yeah, I think that's the answer to your question. Does it?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And I guess briefly, you know, I know when you were expanding into the U.S., it was also with a totally different shopping cart of possibilities given local regulations. I mean,
yeah.
y'all are selling everything here. You're selling a more limited slate of offerings in the U.S. simply because of laws, right?
Yeah, that's basically what we started off with in the beginning. The legal side of things is, for example, we can sell flour in the U.S., which is great, but so far with Dutch laws, because we're located in Europe, we're located in the Netherlands, we cannot sell flour. So our catalog is totally different, much different than in the U.S. than it is in Europe. So that comes with its own, well, issues. I don't want to call it issues, but challenges, that's the right word. So yeah.
Right on. Well, a question for the full panel, but Jürgen, let's get started with you. You know, you mentioned earlier you sell in more than 100 countries, which is impressive. But how did you navigate branding in an industry that was still largely taboo and unregulated in many parts of the world, especially since, you know, we've worked with a number of your peers, and there are still many places, even in the US, where you can't necessarily name the herb or plant that your device was specifically created for.
Yes, that's true. I mean, it's clearly that at the center of all, also of the marketing, is your product. You must convince your customer with the product. You know, we heard it here from everybody. The product must really be convincing. And on the marketing side, you go as far as you can. You know, you try to do whatever you can with marketing, with corporations, with influencers. You know, there you can see what is really possible and what not. But there are really heavy restrictions. I already mentioned they are still in place. You know, but yeah, there are many workarounds. We also do a lot of lifestyle marketing. You know, you just see nice people using the devices without. You see also some vapor, but you don't see cannabis or something like that. You know, so this is our way to go. We are very careful also on social media until today. You know, from the very beginning, it was everywhere clear. And if you risk something, you know, if you risk something. And you think you should show a cannabis leaf or something like that, you must always think about the benefit. Is it really worthwhile a benefit to show really a cannabis leaf? Is it really necessary? Or maybe you can live without it because you know your product is good. People are talking about the whole issue about health. So for us, yeah, I repeat myself, in the center is the product, it's the technology, and it's the health. These are the two main topics we are delivering. And yeah, and then be present. Yeah, be present in shows in Australia. Go to Argentina, to Buenos Aires. Go to Santiago de Chile. Yeah, visit your client in South Africa. Yeah, talk to your Russian client. Yeah, even today. Yeah, do all that, you know, and also take a small market serious. It's important, you know, to be in more than 100 countries means you also maybe a small market. Maybe it's not the big money you are doing there, but you want your brand to be visible there. You want your logo to be visible there. You want that these people talking about it, you know, that that your product is a product of desire, you know, that people really are going for and really are searching for and reading about and talking about. So I think these are a few important topics.
Lance, the power of locality. I just showed you a picture on my phone that I snapped in Amsterdam 3 days ago from a guy's kitchen table. There was Grove Bags. Tell us about your experience with localizing a product, this brand, and its messaging, especially since they might not call a terpene in other parts of the world, and that's what your primary product is named after.
That is a big challenge, just like curing doesn't directly translate in German. You know, there's a lot of things that you need to be cognizant of, and we went back to it before, and again, you know, not to be beating a dead horse, but community over corporate. So putting the community first, understanding that local language, both literally and metaphorically speaking, because again, some things do get lost in translation. Thankfully, terpene is a fairly universal, and those that are really in love and passionate with the plant understand that, you know, that's the steering wheel, whereas the cannabinoids are the engine. So it's important to have this. So we are very fortunate in that, but I do want to say with Jürgen, one excellent point he makes, while a lot of attention, and I have to say for those who went to Cannabis, I saw more Americans at Cannabis this year than I have in the last several years I've been there. So some Americans are coming around to the European market. But we were talking about this as well in our conversation, Rick, was that, Germany was not the first. There's people, you can't forget about Malta. You can't forget about Luxembourg, but even being Malta, a couple 100,000 people on an island, that's still relevant. Jersey Island, I'm sure most Americans don't even know where that is, or the Canary Islands, they aren't concerned about it. But to Jürgen's point, there's some phenomenal cannabis competitions that go on there, and guys like me that rather dry or vaporize because it's healthier, I like to know the fact that I can purchase his product there if I leave mine at home. What you're talking, though, about as far as getting embedded in the community, the thing that we do specifically at our company is I really focus on collaborating with people that are aligned with our cultures and our core values. I'm very fortunate. I've worked for a few companies in this industry that were run by guys who just drink scotch, smoke cigars, and hang out on a golf course. Again, I'm not against that. That's not me. That's not focused on the plant. That's not focused on the community. But now working at a company where it really is an owner all the way down from the top down that put this plant first allows me the freedom to be able to partner with someone like a friend, Captain Hooter, who you're talking about, where we did a collab bag drop for his latest strain. We've done that with genetics companies. James Loud is another good friend, full disclosure, from Northern California, another hippie surfer kid like me. And I'm like, hey, I love what you're doing. We'd love to support you. I think this can be really cyclical. Now he's going to be our guest in our Mary Jane booth in about 6 weeks out here. And we're going to be putting him front and center because he's become a self-professed brand ambassador. But even going to, because I absolutely love the Dutch because they're very direct, but very friendly as well. A good friend out there, Peter, AKA Mossy Giant. He's one of my favorite artists that support this community and support this industry. We've been partnered with him for 3 years. We just dropped a 6th collab bag with him, and he's a self-professed brand ambassador. And this is something where nothing against the people that are into pay to play. I'm not a big fan of cheating and getting to the front of the line. I'm not a fast pass guy. So these are really based on relationships. So we don't pay any of our collaborators, any of our brand ambassadors or influencers. We always look at it from a cyclical or symbiotic relationship, and that's all the way down to some of the cannabis social clubs that are right here in Germany. We've supplied bags, we've supplied product, and we said, hey, this is a sponsorship. We want to support you starting the right way the first day and giving the best possible product, because you notice that it doesn't matter. Again, someone from Canada, someone from Germany, all of us care about putting the best product out, or being a part and a supporting actor of putting their best product out, which is, at the end of the day, flower, oil, concentrate, hash, wax, shatter, etc. So that's what really matters to us, is partnering with those right people.
I love it, dude. Yeah, it was fun. I was glad to see that on Captain Hooter, Dan's kitchen table. But we're coming up on time. I do want one last question for the panel. We'll offer open questions to the crowd if we have time. All right, no time, Ngaio says, but gentlemen, we got 3 minutes left, so keep it to 30-ish seconds. But in one sentence, what's your best piece of advice for a cannabis brand looking to expand internationally in the next year? One piece of advice, come on.
Run. No, I'm just kidding.
Which way?
Joking
Toward
aside,
the
no.
opportunity or away?
I would say be passionate. And you don't necessarily, we did an audit. We had 415 employees at Weed Maps when I was there. We did an internal audit. 34% of those individuals did not consume. But everyone that worked there was passionate. So that would be my sentence. And again, looking at friends that I've known in this room, they've been passionate since day one. Be passionate about what you do. You don't have to be a consumer. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. But be passionate about what you do. Lead with your heart and believe in what you do. Then you will be successful. Everything else will fall into place, but you just have to
lead with passion. I love it.
Yeah, I come back to the product quality, so I would say focus on uncompromised product quality and strict regulatory compliance. They are the focus for international sustainable growth.
It's so important, and I appreciate that. I remember, Jürgen, first time I tried your device, I felt it was precise, which I was like, okay, well, it comes from Germany, so that makes sense, but I think it aligns with this quality first messaging. But please, Nick.
Yeah, I think you guys already had the perfect answers. But I think another thing which is really important, and since these days we're all in the e-commerce business, or at least the online business, online has become more and more important, is to try and get those Google positions. I mean, SEO these days is so important. Obviously, there's a lot of other parts when it comes to marketing, but SEO, trying to get that #1 position in Google basically makes the biggest difference as well. So
Damn.
that would be my...
Even though Google is messing with our SEO right now.
Oh, stop it. Yeah, definitely.
Anybody wants to chat SEO, let me know. But please, Barry, close us up, bro.
I think as a new cannabis company wanting to expand into other markets, the real thing that you have to be is brave. Cannabis is a new product. For us, it's already something that's been around for a while, but we forget that it's only the last few years that it's legalized. It's expanding in every country. You really just have to get out there, be really good at what you do, be passionate, and find the right partners. There's cannabis happening in every country now. It's growing, it's legalizing, it's about to legalize. Every country in the EU will be medically legalized in the next few years, and it's expanding into Asia. And just do the best at what you can, be the best that you can be, don't compromise on anything, let your product speak for you, and go forward.
I love it, Barry. Everybody, let's hear it for this great panel. And panel, let's hear it for this amazing crowd. Happy ICBC, everybody. Very much looking forward to seeing you out on the floor.